Joining us right now on the phone is ESPN senior writer Seth Wickersham, whose latest on ESPN.com is titled "In Choosing UNC, Bill Belichick Chose Himself." Seth Wickersham, how are we doing today?
Good. How are you guys?
We're great. We both just put on our cutoff hoodie suit jackets, so we're all in the spirit of things here. I wanted to start with you wrote a lot, obviously, today with your piece about Belichick, and it did seem through reading it, there wasn't as much there about UNC in the college game as there was defiance and sort of anger, it would seem, from your sources in the Belichick camp towards the NFL. Can you sort of describe that a little bit more? Because I think one thing people here in Boston are having trouble with is the idea that Belichick is doing this as an FU to the NFL when it seems more like the NFL kind of did that to him first, you know?
It was both. I mean, 2024 has been a weird year and tough year in some ways. I mean, look, he gets fired by the Crafts, who say that it was like a mutual parting, but it wasn't. And then there's 7 job openings. He only gets an interview with one team, doesn't get it, and as we later reported, didn't even finish in anyone's top 3 choices on the Falcons. Then the Dynasty documentary comes out, which, kind of roundly minimizes his role in the team's greatness and, drew a lot of criticism from former players. And then this season started, and he was in this new role, and he was in the media, and there was a lot of his former charges and assistants in New England. They would do Zooms once a week, and they would go through every team and every situation and every game. And it was the subtext of it all was like, which of these teams will have openings? Will any of them be interested in Belichick? And is he interested in any of them? And I think that for a variety of reasons around, October or so, he started asking people to research more college programs, and that became a kind of viable option. And I think that what happened in North Carolina, it didn't come together quickly. It's been coming together over the course of days, but he got everything he wanted, and it felt worth a risk. I'm not convinced that he wouldn't have gotten an NFL job, but I don't know if he would have gotten an NFL job that he truly wanted. And at Carolina, he gets to run the program the way that he wants to run it. He's surrounded by people that he's worked with his entire life, probably. And, like Michael Lombardi, one of them, obviously. But, if more of those expats come with him, he gets to spend his final, coaching gig around the people that are philosophically aligned with him and that he enjoys working with. And it's a new challenge. And I think that he was a little disappointed in the word that I was given by a confidant was disgusted in sort of what the NFL has become and why there was no space for him in the league.
Seth, obviously you're familiar with the inner workings of the Patriots and the way Belichick thinks, or to a certain degree. Maybe none of us will ever be ultimately familiar with the way that unique, beautiful mind works. But you also talk about how it is 1 in a million for sure. You also mentioned that at one point he told a confidant within the past week that he's, quote, tired of the stupidness of the NFL. Do you think that could be do you think that's Belichick's way of saying that they're not recognizing him for who he is and what he's done beyond just the last couple of years of struggling post Brady? Or is that just like an indictment of the way that the league is going versus college football is changing radically too, but maybe he thinks he has a better chance to be more Belichick, if you will, in college versus the pros?
Well, I think it's varied, but imagine him. One of the things that's been interesting watching him in this media role is he doesn't fully give you his unvarnished thoughts on every situation like we wish he would, but he does show a little leg, so to speak. And when he's brought on air and asked on television to analyze botched situational football that happens routinely in the NFL, stuff for him that he had cold, decades ago. I watched him when he was asked about the end of the Bears-Lions game. That just complete debacle at the end of it. And, this is someone who is on the outside looking in. Owners have whatever reason they want to give, but nobody seems eager to hire him. And this is the guy who in Super Bowl 49 with the Seahawks at the 1-yard line, stared across the sideline as the clock ticked down, didn't call timeout, watched the Seahawks scramble, saw who their personnel package was, answered that with a personnel package of his own. The first time all year was the first time they had used that personnel package. And then Malcolm Butler obviously comes through with the interception and executes what they had practiced. I mean, he was an absolute ninja at situational football. And it was almost like embarrassing to watch him critique the coaches that are watching this on a weekly basis, because he's so much better at it than they are. And I think that, like, even though his age is a factor, how things ended in New England is a factor, the relationship with Kraft is a factor, the idea that you can't just kind of bring in Belichick to work with your existing executive structure is a factor, even though he's been willing to work with whoever. I think that, like, whatever reason owners want to give, at the end of the day, you can't take away his resume and his career and his accomplishments. And it was kind of just getting ridiculous that he, was out of the game against his choice. And he was going to coach in 2025. Like, that was absolutely clear from the people near him and what he said publicly. He wanted to coach. And this opportunity came up, and it felt like the best one.
We're talking with Seth Wickersham, senior writer for ESPN, ESPN.com. Seth, Bill obviously asked for a lot from UNC. We know that the reporting up until yesterday, when it got announced that he was taking the job, was that there were some trustees that were maybe a little hesitant to give him everything he wanted. So the question is, did Bill get everything he wanted? Was there anything that he had to capitulate on? Did one side have to bend the knee more than the other? What can you tell us about that?
I think, someone like Pete Thamel could probably answer that question better than me. It was a slow negotiation. These things usually come together a lot faster. I mean, it came together over the course of, what felt like a very long week. And he must feel comfortable going into that situation and, feel like that, he's 72 years old. And for however much longer he's going to be coaching, I think he wanted to try to have the space to do it the way that he believes is right, rather than arguing with an existing GM in front of the owner over draft strategy, whatever it might be. And I think that, like, he must feel that he has a chance to be successful there. Otherwise, I think he would have said no.
So let's just talk about the excitement surrounding it also, Seth. I personally, as a lifetime Patriots fan and somebody who is grateful for what Belichick did for 2.5 decades, not just in the news cycle and content, but obviously winning games and bringing that brilliance to the field, and also sometimes the post-game press conferences. But you talk in the piece about 2006. You watched him deliver a lecture at Connecticut State University, and you describe him as in his element and relaxed and energized, speaking to students as they prepared to enter the real world. He told them not to chase money, but a job that was a continuation of a passion. So this aligns to me with what you're talking about. Like, he was going to coach next year. Like, he didn't, like, all the underdogs and all the McAfees and all the Manning casts and everything else. We're not going to sate that desire to do what this guy has done his whole life. And this represents a chance to do it. And also possibly leave a new legacy-based mark on a sport that is evolving rapidly as it goes from amateur to semi-pro, basically, in front of our eyes.
Absolutely, and leave a legacy on the young men that he coaches. I think that, he likes helping people at that kind of pivotal age where they're out of high school, not in the professional world yet, and one of the things he was in his career that he's been most proud of is that when he graduated from Wesleyan, he didn't go into finance. He had an opportunity to. Instead, he went to the Baltimore Colts and did whatever they asked for $24 a week. He followed a passion. And while I think that he will help the players in North Carolina who have NFL ability land with teams and help them in the draft, the vast majority of his players won't. And I think that giving them a chance to prepare for the real world in a system that he sees fit and influence those minds is a legacy that I think he would take a lot of pride in.
All right, Seth, before we let you go here, you obviously were instrumental, you and Van Natta, in documenting exactly where everything went wrong with Brady, with Belichick, with the Krafts and all of that. We'll never forget some of the pieces you put out around that time, 2017 and beyond. I was wondering, do you still get crap from Patriots fans? Like, do people still like send you angry emails and stuff and call you a liar and all that? Because I remember people being very mad at you 7 years ago.
Yeah, I don't think I was, getting a lot of. I don't think I was getting the best table at a lot of Boston restaurants there for a bit.
Not getting a lot of tailgate invites.
No, but it was, everything kind of worked out well. Like I don't know if I'm as if I get that amount of stuff. I mean, obviously I've done a lot on the Patriots before then and since then, including my book, and so. I think those who disliked what I reported definitely had many chances to air their grievances, but I don't notice it like I did. I think it was pretty hot in 2018 when I did that story, but I think that's kind of settled down, and I've enjoyed in doing the stuff I did for my book, and that included spending an hour in WEEI a couple years ago, and meeting a lot of Patriots fans at book events. I enjoyed talking with them and hearing what they had to say about things, hearing what they had to say about me at times, and I think that like what I've always tried to do in my writing is not hide the costs or the price of their greatness, but show those scars and those things as an element of their greatness and something that went alongside of it. And so, I was trying to speak to the larger idea of greatness itself, and hopefully that stuff came through.
It certainly has. And I got to say, I mean, it's very impressive how you were able to do all that and write all that and still have enough of a relationship with all the people involved to keep reporting like this. I mean, generally, you drop bombshells like that, that could turn people off, but it hasn't for you. You're still cranking this stuff out, and we certainly appreciate it. Seth Wickersham, thanks so much for the time today.